Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Across the Pitch on the AAT Sports Network. Today is Saturday, August 22nd, 2026. My name is Mike Barrera. I'm joined today by Ben Brescher. And Ben, am I not this? Am I seeing your jersey correctly? Or do you have the new kit on today?
I do, yeah.
Oh, snap! Mine's in the mail. What player do you got?
I had to get the legend Ale Bedoya. It's
Ah,
last possibly the last chance to get his jersey, so I had to.
damn! I just peeped your collar. I was like, wait a minute. Ben's got the new gigs. Well, first of all, Ben, Austin and Philadelphia drew tonight, 1-1 in Austin. Ben, how are you doing tonight? And what's your overall reaction from tonight's result?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I think I mean, a point on the road. It's a point on the road. Most times, as a fan, you can be happy with that, and I'm pretty sure Ryan Richter and the rest of the coaching staff will be happy with a point as
Mhm.
well. Um, After this is their third game of the week with no rotations at all, and the unbeaten streak is now six in a row without losing since the World Cup break. So I'm pretty pleased with it. Some other results tonight went
Mhm.
our way. So we are now 3 points out of a playoff spot, I believe. There are some other teams. It's going to be close there now, but yeah, I think it's a pretty successful night overall.
Yeah, let's get to a couple comments and then we'll get into the lineup, the storylines, and of course today's match. Joe says, man of the match. I don't care. It's Neil Pierre. Joe, I think the Apple commentators would agree with you that it was Neil Pierre. I'm going to certainly agree with you that it's Neil Pierre. Valerie joins us and she agrees that's Neil Pierre. We'll get to Neil Pierre's performance tonight because I thought he was very, very stout on the defensive end. Pallet joins us. Besides the ball through the arms of Blake, that was his best game this season. Ben will also talk about Andre Blake as well. Joe says he just got ordered his kit today. Very nice, or he has it ordered already. I wanted to get a Westfield one, Ben. I mentioned that in my previous show, but they were out of the letters apparently, according to the Fanatics and MLS shop, whatever. So I was like, all right, well, Kevin Sullivan, I think he's a good backup for that. So I ended up getting that. Joe says, I'll take the draw tonight with that freaking heat. Pallet has Wagner kick coming his way on Wednesday. Very nice. Lord of Olympia, Lukic looked his best in a while. Yeah, Lord of Olympia, I agree with that. I'm also going to discuss the substitutions tonight. I thought they were timed very well by interim head coach Ryan Richter, but I do think that Lukic came out absolutely red hot. He had a great performance in the second half. Maddie says Blake needs a vacation for 2 games. Other comments, Mandy, too many W's lately. Ran out of letters. Yeah, apparently. Oh, I like that comment. And Chris says definitely Neil Pierre. He had a great game. Now, let's get to a couple storylines. We'll get to the starting 11 and we'll also talk about standings because obviously that's a big one. I think the biggest storyline tonight, at least for Philadelphia fans, Ben, is that Kevin Sullivan's red card against Miami got rescinded. Now, I know you were at the Miami match, so I would love to hear your first of all your recollection of that night, but as well as your opinion on whether you thought that Kevin Sullivan deserved to be given a red, and that your thoughts on the rescission to get it removed.
Definitely a crazy night, as it always is when Miami comes to town. I first remember just Quinn. I didn't really see what exactly happened, but I see Quinn like taking down Ian Frey, and then
Hmm.
everything just going off. And yeah, from my seats, it wasn't exactly. I could kind of see the back of Kevin Sullivan,
Yep.
so I couldn't really see exactly the punches. Obviously, everyone was in there. But the more when I like got home, and saw it again, I think that it was definitely the right decision to rescind Kevin's red card.
Hmm.
There was no contact to the face area of Bright or anyone like that. I think that during the game, the ref could have, if it was not at the end of the game, the ref should have gone to the VAR
Hmm.
and like checked everything and taken a long time. But since it was the end of the game, I guess he can call it off. I think what I would have done if I went to VAR, I think Ian Frey should have been sent off with a second yellow for
Yeah.
starting the whole thing. I think Bright obviously should have gotten a red card for punching Cavan. And I'm surprised Quinn didn't escape with anything. Definitely yellow for, I mean, the fourth, that kind of violent conduct, whatever. But and then I mean, what's making I guess the news now too is Messi
Yep.
fined with that. It's interesting because I do remember Quinn does come over when I was watching the game, like as the play's developing, and does kind of leave a late check slash hit on Messi. Not much, but then Messi does come over and does make contact with his head that's clear. Uh,
Hmm.
like if I was picking, I do think that's a red card. There was a couple of years ago I saw when Kaká, or way back then when Kaká was still in Orlando, he got a red card for putting his hands on one of his former teammates or whatever. I think he was on the Red Bulls, and he got a red card because it's just a law. That's the rule of the game. So I think Messi should have gotten a red card there, but and a fine is kind of their way of saying that they made a mistake, something like that. But yeah, the main thing is Cavan's card rightfully rescinded, and he had a big game today.
Yeah, he did have a big game. He was very involved. Valerie says everyone was in there regarding the scrap except Messi. He neglected his captain duties and stay away to protect his own precious self. Yeah, I think the Miami Messi circus has overstayed his welcome in MLS. I think fans across the league, in whatever team you're supporting, are just tired of this, I guess, privilege and special treatment that Miami gets. But either way, Cavan gets his red card taken away, but which is huge because so far since the World Cup break and probably towards the back end of Bradley Carnell's tenure, we saw a Cavan Sullivan that has just gotten better and better and better. And once again, he was a very big bright spot for us in the 70 some minutes he played. But another big note for tonight, if you look at the starting lineup, everything is basically the same since the previous match. I think it is exactly the same in the starting lineup, including Jesus Bueno. Now, Lukic had a yellow card accumulation suspension last match, so I understood Bueno being in there. Of course, he had two turnovers that led to the win against NYCFC. But I was surprised to see Bueno start today over Lukic. I just wanted to hear your thoughts, Ben, on that because Lukic has had that starting role for the past year and change. And yes, Bueno has played better of late, but I was a little surprised to see Jovan start on the bench today. How about you?
Me too. I definitely thought there'd be rotation to the squad.
Right.
Obviously, coming in with the game got delayed because of the heat, 30 minutes. So the heat played a big role, and I thought that this is, if it was in the past, it was Jim Curtin here, maybe even Bradley Carnell, they would leave 5 or 6 guys who are starters and put in some bench pieces and try to, I guess, just survive until halftime, steal a goal and win like that. But what we've seen from Richter this season is it's win or it's a loss. He's not going for a draw. He's putting everything out there. And when the momentum's high, he's going to keep riding that momentum. So that's why there's not really any change. And I think Bueno was good against Miami. He was great in the League's Cup game a couple weeks ago. So I think it's deserved for Bueno to get another start. And I thought he was pretty good today again. I thought he had another solid match. But again, I thought it's definitely interesting because Jovan Lukic came in and also had, like one of the comments said, one of his best games so far in a while. So I thought that it's definitely interesting now. Danley, I believe, is on yellow card watch for the next. I need to check because the past couple of games he hasn't gotten a yellow, but as of this weekend, he was on the yellow card watch. So something to monitor. But it feels good knowing that we have 3 good center mids.
Yeah, it is. And a couple comments real quick. Aloha Buzz says Milan and Bruno can use the game off, rest and reset. The problem is the depth here. It's very concerning. Yeah, Aloha, Dax McCarty, and I can't remember the other commentator rather, talked about how Austin's depth, which is much different than the Philadelphia Union. And of course, Austin also has the match against, I think they're playing Toluca on Wednesday night, aren't they, Ben? Right?
Yeah. In New Jersey.
So that's right.
We'll have to travel.
Yeah, so you're talking about a team in Austin who had a couple of reserves on their bench that maybe would typically be starting. So they had some rotation there. But I think, Ben, to your point regarding rotation, I think one thing that we were very critical on with Curtin was he would run his players into the ground, right? We saw that with Andre Blake. We saw that, I'm sorry, with Alejandro Bedoya. We certainly saw that with Jacob Glessnes towards the back end of Jim Curtin's career. Now, with Bradley Carnell, I do agree with you in the sense that he would very much go, let's just make it to halftime 0-0 or maybe 1-0 and then try to win it in the second half. I do like the fact that Ryan Richter is not doing that. Now, I wonder where the balance is, right? Is he much more Jim Curtin in the sense that he will play his starters no matter what and kind of neglect the rotation? Or is he going to be maybe somewhere toward closer to Bradley Cornell's side? Also, I mean, I hate to say this, but Ryan Richter is very much probably coaching for his job this season because as of right now, unlike Austin, who has Jim Curtin waiting in the wings for the next year, we don't know what's going to happen in the sprint season. We don't know what's going to happen in the following season once the calendar changes. Ryan Richter, as of this point, has earned the starting job for me. He's done a great job. The players have responded. They're obviously undefeated in MLS play since he's come back. But at this point, yes, the Union are playing to win to get into the playoffs, and we'll talk about the standings in 1 second. But Ryan Richter is absolutely coaching for his job. And I think so far the players have responded. But let's get to the table, and then we'll get to the match itself. So now, Ben, you mentioned some things have gone in our favor. DC United has fallen out of the playoff picture. They have 24 points, and they sit in 11th place. Toronto has 24 points. They sit in 10th place. Orlando, also with 24 points, they are currently in the ninth and final playoff spot. The Philadelphia Union are currently at 5, 6, and 10 with 21 points. They are 3 points back from the last playoff spot, just one win away, basically. I'm a little disappointed. I thought we could have pulled off a W tonight, but I know a lot of things were maybe going against us there, and we'll talk about that in a second. But man, just imagine if they won tonight against Austin, you're only 1 point back. But even so, Ben, if I had told you at the World Cup break we would be 3 points back from the final playoff spot, what would you have said? Because I can't believe how quickly this team has turned it around.
Ridiculous. I mean, the last game before the World Cup break against Miami, it looks like the players didn't even want to defend on some of the goals. So the fact that they just have come back with new sense of confidence and belief is just amazing to see.
Absolutely is. Now, let's get to the match itself. So, of course, like I said, Austin has the game on Wednesday, but and Philadelphia took advantage of their rotated squad early on. Now, we had a chance from Milan Alowski in the first couple of minutes. Bruno set him up pretty nicely, and Milan just hits it well over the target. We also had a cross received by Pierre in the 4th minute off a set piece, but he can't get it on target. There was a huge moment by Andre Blake as well in the 14th minute where he had to make a big save. And I mean, I guess we can get to the goal in a few moments. Just 2 goals back to back just after the 18th minute. But I wanted to hear your thoughts, Ben, on Andre Blake because he stepped up early, as I mentioned in that moment right there in the 14th minute. But he had some pretty big saves throughout today's match, and I thought he played a good game.
I've been a bit critical of Blake the last couple of games with his movement on penalties and stuff like that. But I thought he responded well in the first half. I think, in the 14th minute, was the first real big chance for Austin, and it's a really hard save to make on the initial shot from Mizuni. Gets down well, and I mean that's where you want to put the ball if you're a goalie. You want to push the ball out wide, not in the center. It's just unfortunate. There's a Austin, one of their wing backs there, who I don't think he gets a touch on the second shot that hits the post, but he still made it hard for I believe it was John Gallagher there to finish because he's diving across the goal.
Yep.
So it's a big save. It's one that keeps the Union in the game, and if they conceded early, who would have knows what would happen? Because conceding early to a team that arguably needs to win more than the Union right now, would not have been good.
Yeah, I'm going to look really quick at the Western Conference table. Austin currently sits in 14th place. They have 21 points, but unlike the Union, they are not 3 points back of the ninth spot. They are currently 7 points back of Real Salt Lake, who has 28 points. Derek actually brings up a funny comment. And I'll bring that up in just 1 second. He says, the Apple announcers exhaust me with so much talking. You know what's funny, Derek? There was a moment in just before the 10th, 12th minute or so when they mentioned that Neil Pierre was 6'5". I'm like, these guys haven't done their homework. Neil Pierre is definitely not 6'5". He's 6'7". I see Todd Lewis has just hopped in the studio, so I'm going to bring him on in just a second. But another thing from the comments as well, they called Milan Alaski Indy Vasiliev at one point as well. They also said that Neil Pierre was like dominant for Lingby. I'm like, that seems like a stretch of a word. I don't know, but he was good, obviously. I don't know about dominant. But anyway, before I get to the goals themselves, the king of the goal breakdown, Todd Lewis, has joined us today. Todd, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Oh no, Mike! I wasn't hoping you would bring me in yet.
I just saw your message. Sorry.
Yeah, man. But what a crazy game. Andre Blake shows big, and then he has a moment where it's like, oh god, huge potential blunder. Spills the ball. Neil Pierre, by far the Union's best player.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you guys have talked about Neil Pierre yet. I know you guys have been live for about 18 minutes. Just came back from Ryan Richter's press conference, but yeah, Neil Pierre, what a game from him. Huge moment for the youngster, which I don't know if you guys saw this, but a lot of people on social media the last week were saying, Neil Pierre, he has a lot to do defensively. All we see is goal scoring clips from him. The defensive side of his game's lacking. And tonight, by far, Ryan Richter said, by far the Union's best player in the night. And I don't think there's any debate about it. Neil Pierre was a stalwart in the back, saving Andre Blake, saving the defensive line multiple times tonight. And it may not have been his traditional game offensively, but defensively, really, really, really big when Union needed it.
I find that interesting, and Jillian Albany has joined us. We'll get to Jillian in just a second. But Todd, I find that interesting when people say his defensive game hasn't been obvious or noticeable or good enough. I feel like tonight he was everywhere he needed to be, and he does the little things so confidently, just maneuvering around defenders, making the right pass out of the back. Neil has been very impressive. And Jillian, first of all, how are you doing tonight? Second of all, you've obviously watched Neil much more than all of us have, considering you covered you too. The way he plays now, does it remind you a lot about how he did so well in Union 2? Like, how do you think his game has translated so far from when he was just, 16, 17 years old?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he was really good with Union 2, and you could see that, like, his distribution was really good.
Yeah.
He was just really confident there, on defense. He paired well with Mecania when he was there in 2024, and last year with Rafael Uzcategui. But, like,
Yeah.
he's taken it to a whole other level. That loan to Lingby was huge for him. And you see, obviously he's still growing. Like he told us, he's 6'7" and still growing. But like, I think it's just the confidence. It's been huge. And he was tremendous tonight. That's why I asked Ryan. I mean, that was an easy question to have to ask there. But yeah, tremendous. And I think the biggest thing is that confidence. I mean, he was MLS Next Pro, Defender of the Year last year for good reason, but that's at the Next Pro level. Here he is holding his own against, some, Messi and friends the other day. And of course tonight, like, I mean, he saved the Union's butts a few times. So
Yeah.
Huge.
No, he really was. And honestly, something I talked about briefly with Alex Windley when she was on our show after Inter Miami game was when you have a player that size, their fluidity, how they move can sometimes be hindered because of their size. It doesn't seem that way with Neil. Yes, he obviously has long legs. He obviously moves a bit slower than somebody who's shorter, but he just still is such a great athlete. And really, I'm very impressed with him every single week. But Ben, let's get to the goal. So in the 18th minute, we have ourselves a set piece goal from the Philadelphia Union. It's a short pass to Milan at first. Kai returns back to Milan, and then Milan's cross finds Nathan Harrell, and Harrell does just enough to get it back into the box, and the young, small Kevin Sullivan somehow finds his head on it. Ben, your thoughts on tonight's first and only Union goal?
It was great goal. Set piece perfection.
Yep.
Had a ton of set piece goals last year, but this one was great. And yeah, so it starts by Milan playing it short to Kai and just kind of laying it back off to Lasky for a little whipped in swinger. Something that he does pretty well. Instead of kind of floating it to the back post on the corners. And I was thinking about this during the game with all the talk about Neil Pierre and the set pieces. Use Nate Harriel, another guy who's great in the air. Goes to the back post, and Nate with a great headed ball back, and as easy as it's going to get for Cavan. Thankfully, he didn't get kicked in the head by Bruno. It looked like Bruno was there as well. But great team goal from the Union, and set piece success again.
Now, Todd, I know you're the king of goal breakdown, so I wanted to ask you something. Obviously, since the Ryan Richter takeover and the World Cup break, the Union have looked more dangerous. Neil Pierre being a big part of that with set pieces. I haven't had a chance to ask you though. What have you noticed from the Union from set pieces in general since Ryan has taken over? Any thoughts on today's goal from the Philly?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty noticeable once Quinn came. Quinn. I'm in the process of trying to write something for Quinn, but when Kai Wagner came back, it was pretty obvious that the Union were splitting time between Alaski and Kai Wagner, where in years prior it was primarily just Kai Wagner taking the set pieces, and you can see the understanding with Alaski and Kai Wagner. Obviously, they take the corner kick short tonight between the two of them, and obviously the ball gets returned back to Alaski, and he plays a perfect floated ball to Nate Harriel at the back post, and it's headed across for Cavan to head home. And what you see with Alaski is he's pretty direct with his deliveries into the box. A lot of speed, a lot of pace on his crosses. We obviously saw it last match against Inter Miami for the Neil Pierre goal. But I look at it as, and maybe it's something I need to look at a little bit more closely, but I look at it as, the Union, they have the option of having an in-swing and out-swing cross with both Alaski and Kai Wagner there. Obviously, Wagner gives you the left-footed cross in, and Alaski gives you the right-footed. And so you have two options there with two players that, I get it, right? The first 15 games of the season, the Union didn't have anybody that was hitting a cross well, but I think when you had a month of no soccer and you could really just hone in and correct some things and just settle down and just pay attention to some of the final details, I think that's helped. And obviously Kai Wagner coming back has taken off, in my opinion, some of that pressure from Alaski, where, of course you want to have all your service be spot on right away, but at the end of the day, you're not going to have a perfect cross 10 out of 10 times. So,
Right.
I think Wagner coming back probably alleviates some of that pressure for Alaski. But like I said, I mean, now having an option for either an in-swinger or an out-swinger because you have a left and a right-footed player out there, I think that's pretty huge for the team.
Definitely. A couple comments as well, and then we'll get to the second goal of the game and Jillian's thoughts on that. Conrad says, 3 games in 6 days. Boys are tired. I thought the tie was a great result tonight, and Blake saved us along with Pierre. Quinn was trying too hard. Yeah, I thought Quinn came out a little forced, and then he settled down to a little bit in the second half. But I agree with that initial part where Quinn was just a little bit too forced in the first few minutes of his appearance. Lord of Olympia says, is Sari Larson now the forgotten center back? Paid a lot for him along with a few others. Yeah, we'll get to that as well, because now we really have this strong pairing with Nate and Neil Pierre as well. Sari Larson, someone who we thought was going to be a staple of this back line for the entire season, is now kind of on the back burner. And of course, Mark McKenzie's coming back too. So we have a lot of shuffling to do in the center back area. Derek says a lot of Alaski went in the boxes sky high. Today they were beautiful. Now, the second goal here, Jillian, I think a lot of times when you watch a soccer game, you'll always know within the first 5 minutes after you score a goal is when you're most susceptible to get scored on. And sure enough, Austin finds the back of net just about 3 minutes later. Theirs is also a set piece. And honestly, Frankie just kind of gets dunked on a bit from Rosales. I wanted to hear your thoughts on the second goal, just your overall feeling as well as you see him give up a goal so quickly.
Yeah, I felt it was one of those moments where like, that's so Union, right? And funny thing about that too was, Kyle and I are watching that here, and he's on his laptop and looking at stats, and he's like, oh, they're gonna score on Austin's gonna score on this. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, like because the stats were ahead of what we were viewing. So
Oh
I was
yeah.
like spoiled. I'm like, ah. So like watching that like play out, I was like, oh, I know what's gonna happen. Which was kind of a bummer. But yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, that one was unfortunate, just 3 minutes later giving it up. I think they could have been a little bit cleaner in there. But at the same time, you think about all the chances that Austin had to go ahead in that match and how many more they could have scored. Like Union got lucky a
Sure.
lot of times. Andre came up big, Neil came up big, the post came up big and a few times. So it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, credit to Austin. That was a nice goal on their part.
It's actually funny. I completely forgot about this until now. And Ben, I guess I'll kind of segue for this question with you. Neil Pierre gets a yellow card in the 42nd minute, a pretty soft yellow card, by mind you. And I think a lot of coaches, they have an 18-year-old player on a yellow card, hot weather as well. You're going to get tired. You're going to make mistakes a little easier in the hot temperature. Credit to Richter for letting his star player play in the entire match despite being on yellow. But I kind of wanted to ask you, Ben, your thoughts on Lord of Olympia's question. I mean, a little surprised that we're still not seeing Sari Larson and Neil was given the entire match, considering he was on a yellow that was kind of soft.
Definitely a bit interesting. Like I said, I expected rotation at
Yeah.
the beginning of this game, and I thought Sari Larson would be one of those players that came in. I think was still on yellow card watch. I don't think that's a factor though. I think he is the forgotten center back right now. With Neil Pierre's emergence as a starter, I think it moves Sari to the bench. But interesting that Richter doesn't bring him on late to close games. He's gone with Bedoya the past couple games.
Yeah.
I think the yellow card for Neil Pierre, definitely not a yellow in my opinion. I mean, the guy kind of just ran into him. Clearly foul, not a yellow. But some coaches would take off Pierre at halftime or the 60th minute, something like that. So Richter showing that he has full faith in Pierre, and it's the only way they're going to grow. Playing all these young guys, but it's interesting because Sari does have Europa League experience. You would have think that with this busy, congested schedule, he'd play more minutes, and he hasn't. So that kind of hints to where the new coaching staff views him, and it's gonna be an interesting decision on if they keep him or part ways with him at the end of the season.
Absolutely. I'm trying to scroll through FOTMob real quick to see the substitutions for tonight. We had a 57th minute substitution, Quinn Sullivan in for Indiana Vasiljev. We also had Jovan Lukic come on for Jesus Bueno, also in the 57th minute. So before we get to that, so the second half, the first half closed. We opened the second half. The Union had a couple chances. Milan's pass to Cavan in the 50th minute was a bit sloppy there. Actually, that was a stop sign. Excuse me. There was one moment in the 52nd minute where Milan kind of whiffs on a cross from Frankie. It ends up being offsides. But Todd, I wanted to hear your thoughts on the substitutions, so the timing and the impact we saw from both Quinn and Lukic.
Yeah, fantastic substitutions from Ryan Richter once again, I thought, which was interesting too, because I would imagine all of us are listening to the English broadcast, and they weren't really high on the Union's bench. And, it makes sense when Austin can bring on Facundo Torres, when they can bring on Brendan Vasquez. I mean, you have close to $20 million locked up in those two guys. And we know what Facu Torres did during his time with Orlando City before he left to go to South America. We know what Brandon Vasquez did with Cincinnati before he went to Monterrey down in Liga MX. And yes, Brandon Vasquez coming back from an ACL injury. Facu Torres was the leading assister for Austin coming into this game. So yeah, big time players coming off the bench for Austin. But once again, these guys coming off the bench, Ryan Richter seems to have a starting 11 that he's comfortable with. We know that Kai Wagner's a lockdown left back. It seems like the preferred center back pairings, Neil Pierre and Nathan Harriel playing out of position with Frankie Westfield on the right. The midfield's a little bit interesting because for a moment there, the first couple games, it looked like Jovan Lukic and Danley John Jock were the two preferred defensive midfielders, but now that's back-to-back games for Jesus Bueno. I know he came in last game for Jovan Lukic because he was suspended, but when you look at the game prior, the way that Jesus played against New York City was arguably the Union's biggest player, and that come from behind victory against NYC. And so I think
No,
maybe part of that is Ryan Richter rewarding the midfielder with his good performance against New York City. Definitely held his own against Inter Miami. And I think maybe one other thing that's worth noting is Jovan Lukic started against Orlando City back in May when it was extremely humid down in Orlando. After 45 minutes, he got pulled from that game. Then head coach Bradley Cornell was talking about, he's not sure exactly what was wrong with Jovan. He just was dehydrated or something and pulled him out. And so maybe Jovan's a player that really does struggle in extreme conditions like this. And maybe that played a part into why Jesus Bueno also got the start with Danley. Up top, it's going to be Milan Alaski. It seems like Damiani. So it does seem like we have this preferred starting 11 from Ryan Richter. But the thing is, these guys coming off the bench want to push for more minutes. Quinn Sullivan, not 100% yet. I think we all know that. But he'll get closer and closer to getting match fit. And I think he'll really give Indiana Vassilev a run for his money to get more minutes starting on the opposite side of his brother. But yeah, it just seemed like these guys coming off the bench had a point to prove, a fire in the stomach to go out there and really stand out. And I think Anello was excellent. I mean, you see it as soon as he steps in onto the field, has an opportunity he creates for Quinn Sullivan. Quinn was lively when he came on, created a couple chances. Alado has that big hustle play that I think saved a goal. If it wasn't for him tracking back on defense, as his comment says, it's probably 2-1 Austin. And I think everybody sitting here, people in the comment section, are probably feeling a little bit different. But the truth of the matter is, the guys came off the bench. They had a job to do, and they executed. And as maybe disappointing as it was for the Union not to get all 3 points, I think a draw is probably the fair result between both sides. And let's not forget, too, 6 straight games that the Union are now undefeated. Didn't see that the first 15 games of the season under Bradley Cornell. So obviously something's working for this team. And Ryan Richter, again, trusting his guys going out there and doing what they have to do to make sure that the Union stay undefeated, continue to push for a playoff spot. But yeah, I think his substitutions, Ryan Richter, spot on once again.
Yeah, for sure. So again, we had the 56-minute substitution. We had Quinn for Indy, Lucas for Bueno. Later on the match, in the 73rd minute, we had Alado for Damiani, Anello for Kevin Sullivan. I was a bit surprised to see Kevin come out, but at the same time, you know what? As players have, as the comments have mentioned, as we have mentioned here, it was a hot one today. Even now, I just looked at the weather app while you were talking, Todd. It's 92 degrees in Austin. It has to be like 9:45, and it's still almost 100 degrees. It's an absolute scorcher out there in Texas. And then the last sub of tonight was Alejandro Bedoya on for Milan Alaski very late in this game. I think it was almost stoppage time at this point by the time that substitution came on. So I agree, though. One of the comments mentioned Quinn seemed to be a bit off when he first came on. I thought Quinn made a couple maybe decision-making mistakes. He maybe could have passed it a little bit better, or maybe he shot a little bit crisper on a couple moments. But he did kind of ease himself into the second half, and I thought he was very dangerous as well. But I thought Lukic, man, he came out, and he just was noticeably impactful. And I thought he was probably your best player in the second half besides Neil Pierre. Again, Todd, you mentioned Anello, really, really active. I mean, one of his first few touches on the ball, he gives Quinn a really good chance to shoot on target. So I wanted to see a lot more of Anello. We got to see more of him today. I was impressed, and considering how Alado has played, I think it's worth giving him more of a run. But Jillian, I know, I think I mentioned in the text, like, I've been dying to see Jakupovic play, and he just cannot. And then, yes, I know Alado had this big defensive moment. Nothing taken away from that. But my God, Jillian, like, what do we have to do to see Malik play? I've been dying to see some dynamic goal scorer, and he just keeps riding the bench.
Yeah, I was really hoping to see Malik as well. I know Richter said multiple times how much he believes in Malik, and I trust, he's going to put him in when the situation suits. But Malik hasn't scored since April. This kid, Kyle says I jinxed it because he hasn't scored since I interviewed him. But no, like really though, he has 3 goals with Union 2. Although technically he scored one in a friendly since then. But no, he, strikers they're streaky, but I think, him getting that first team experience would be really good. And, I think he would rise to the occasional bit. I mean, he's had some good moments when he's gotten in with them, but yeah, I was really hoping to see him in that and, see what he could bring, because Alado's not always been it, but, to his credit, yeah, he did come up big a little bit tonight. But yeah, just get him in there. He has some good speed and he can get back and, make some key defensive moves as well. But based on what I saw from him at when they were at New England Revolution 2, he really was actually pretty key in some of his plays, including one of the goals. So yeah, I was hoping to see him get a shot because he needs to get out of this funk that he's in.
No, he definitely does. And honestly, like I said, Bruno was okay tonight. I thought Milan at times looked a bit, I don't know. I don't want to say tired because I'm not going to judge a player. I know it's hot outside, but he did look a little off. I know the NYCFC match, he was visibly frustrated because he couldn't find the back of the net. I just feel like Milan's hot streak has cooled off now a bit. And I'm starting to worry about this Philadelphia Union offense if Milan isn't scoring at least every other match, or at least getting involved every other match. But yeah, Alado, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum at this point. He just doesn't offer you anything. Those few moments he has are few and far between. And at this point, why not give other people chances? But again, I mean, Ryan Richter, he seems to know what he's doing so far. So I'm not going to judge him too hard for how he's approached it. Valerie asks, lots of empty seats out there tonight. Did the Heat keep Austin folks away? Probably. I mean, it's a hot one out there. I can imagine it did. Conrad then says it was brutal in the stadium for most of it. No air movement and temp hovering around 96 degrees, averaging 2.3 points per match after the break. Perfect pace to make the playoffs. I like the optimism there, Conrad. So Philadelphia Union, again, we had this big moment where Andre Blake almost seems to drop the ball. Now, I thought Nate Harrell may have kind of interfered with his vision a bit, where maybe he couldn't receive the ball as well. But Andre almost has himself a very costly mistake. But Neil Pierre goes ahead and clears it out. And of course, as we mentioned, Alado comes back and saves the day when Brandon Vasquez has a chance on goal. And then at the very end of this game, Andre Blake once again has a huge save to keep the Philadelphia Union at 1-1. But you leave this match with a 1-1 draw. Now you have about, a week to rest before we travel, I should say, to the New York Red Bulls up there at Sports Illustrated Stadium in Harrison, New Jersey, with 7 days off, a little bit of time to rest. Ben, your thoughts on tonight's draw, considering the run of games we had and, the week we have now to rest?
I mean, yeah, a point's a point. You're going to take that when you don't really rotate much, and it's scorching hot out there in Austin. So they're going to be happy with that. Yeah, like Todd said, 6 games unbeaten for them now. Mm-hmm. And we got some favorable results today. But now they have a week off, time to recover. And I've always been worried a bit about the attack with Bruno and Alado not contributing and just Milan scoring the goals. But if Milan doesn't start scoring in the next couple games, then that's really concerning. Mm-hmm. It was a big field in Austin, so I think the second half favored a lot of back and forth, which it's not really how the Union want to play their game. Like you said, Neil and Andre kind of saved the day multiple times because of that back and forth transition. And the Union don't really have that super sub right now. Quinn Sullivan's not fully healthy. So he had a good shot in the second half. But they don't have that guy who's going to create something out of nothing right now. So there were moments that were quite frustrating, honestly, in front of the net when the Union got their counterattack chances. I thought Anello was good. I like how he comes on, gets the ball, and immediately goes towards goal. Yeah. I think that's one of his strong suits. I think one more thing. I think that I feel like we could have seen a bit more of Frankie in the attack. I don't think he got the balls that he wanted some of the time on the right side to deliver some of the crosses in. He was frustrated a bit, and I think that could have changed the game. Danley had some big chances as well, rocketing one off the post.
Yeah, sure.
And not getting the ball out of his feet. Good defensive play from Austin's back line. But I agree. I think a tie is a fair result. And now they have to prepare for a really important game away at Red Bull. At some point, these draws are going to have to turn into wins with where the Union sit right now. So I think that's the perfect game to go and try to spoil the party. Red Bull's tied today, but they're not doing that well either. They've kind of cooled off after their hot start to the season, but it's another game where I think the Union can steal 3 points, definitely.
Yeah, Ben, I'm just looking at the last few games from the Red Bull. They came out of the World Cup break with a 3-1 loss at Subaru Park. They fell to Charlotte FC 2-0. They beat Orlando 3-2. They lost Atlanta 2-1. They lost to Nashville 1-0, and then they tied 1-1 to Chicago at Sports Illustrated Arena. They gave up an early goal in the 30th minute, and they actually came back late and tied it up in the 86th minute from a goal from Harper. So they came back late to earn a point. But Todd, I mean, you're talking about a team in New York Red Bulls who have really limped their way out of the World Cup break. The Philadelphia Union, obviously one of the hotter teams in MLS. What are you expecting now since our last match against New York just a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, again, I mean, you don't want to discredit the run of form that the Union are on, six games unbeaten.
Yeah.
We know what happened last year against Red Bull in New York. I know, Jillian, you were there last year with myself, and just watching. I mean, it was so odd. I mean, the whole moment was so odd at Red Bull's Arena or Sports Illustrated, whatever we're calling it now. But
yeah.
You see after the game, after Red Bull win their first win in over 16 games against the Union, they're celebrating like they won MLS Cup, which is so odd. And then you get the shenanigans after the game with the Red Bull mascot interrupting Bradley Cornell's press conference.
Oh, that's I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was so Bush League. It was just so odd and weird behavior. And so
yeah.
I'm sure in some of these players, I think that's probably going to be in the back of their mind that, hey, look, and Kai Wagner actually told us too, Jillian, remember his first game back was against Red Bull. And he was saying, and Nathan Harriel said it too, I believe, saying, yeah, we don't lose to Red Bull. And so we need to get back to winning ways. They obviously win at Subaru Park. So you know that they're be up for this game. They want to beat Red Bull away. But yeah, I like the momentum that the Union have going for them.
Yeah.
And this is a great opportunity to keep the unbeaten run going. This is a great opportunity to stack some wins. You have Red Bull, and then you're at home against Montreal, and then you're at home against Cincinnati, which, Cincinnati could be a difficult opponent. But you have an opportunity here with at least Red Bull and at least Montreal where you could essentially get 6 points. And the Union are 3 points out of a play-in spot, and the East has completely plummeted. And if results keep going the Union's way with teams continuing to lose, there might be a situation where we can see the Union start to make some ground moving up the table in the Eastern Conference. I think 1 through 4 is probably unrealistic right now for the Union, but if you look at them fighting for a 7 or an 8 seed, I think that's very doable with this team right now. Conrad said it a little bit earlier, averaging a little bit over 2 points a game, which is excellent. You keep that up the rest of the season, for sure you'll get into the playoffs, and you may finish anywhere between 6 through 8 if you keep that kind of form up.
Yeah, Derek actually adds here, we're 3 points outside the play-in, and it seems we can get that. Do you think it's greedy of me to want NYCFC's place at 7th place and we're 5 points out for the spot? No, Derek, I don't think it's greedy. I think to Todd's point, you're absolutely reading the room here. The Philadelphia Union are playing well while other teams seem to be falling on the standings. And just to give people some context, if they're not looking at the standings right now, Orlando has 24 points in 9th place. The Red Bulls have 26 points in 8th place. So if we beat the Red Bulls this coming weekend, we'll have 24 points and they'll have 26. And suddenly you're only 2 points back of that 8th spot. NYCFC is also tied at 26 points in the 7th spot. And then Cincinnati is probably the highest you can get from the standings. They're in 6th place. They're 10 points ahead of us with 31 points. That would be, I think, a bit of a stretch. But again, if you beat them, if you beat Montreal, which you should beat Montreal, if you beat the Red Bull, that's 9 points right there. There's still what? It's 34 games in the MLS season, right? Am I correct in that? 34 games, so 36 games, I think. 34. Okay, perfect. So you still have 13 games to go. I mean, a lot could happen in that time. So I'm really excited for this one. Jillian, now I know Todd mentioned the press conference where Bradley Cardinal got interrupted by the Red Bull, and I forgot to ask you, were you in the press conference just now with Richter?
Yeah, I was.
Okay. Any good juicy quotes from Richter? Anything maybe want to highlight today?
I mean, not really. I asked him about what he thought of Neil's performance, and he said he thought Neil was the best player in the game, which,
Yep.
yeah, I think we all can agree on that, right? But he talked about, them playing in the heat and everything, but, nothing really juicy, as it were. But, he said that he had trouble sleeping, just trying to figure out like how he wanted to manage this with, how the variables and with the
Yeah.
heat and all that. So, but yeah, I mean, he basically said some things like he was asked about how he thought the ref did, considering it was like his second game or something.
Oh,
And
that's right.
yeah, and he thought he was fine. He thought maybe a card could have been given, that thing with Quinn and when Frankie gets knocked down. And I thought that exchange, by the way, like that was kind of funny actually, because you see Quinn like, don't you touch my boy Frankie. And it's like, did you see what I did to Ian Frey the other day? But no, like, no, just that whole thing I thought was kind of funny. But now he's like, you know what, it was a fair, I think the ref keeping it in the card in his pocket was, good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it was pretty straightforward, honestly. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it seems like that's been the case so far from Richter. Kind of straightforward, nothing too flashy from his press conferences. We'll see as we continue to learn how he is as the Philadelphia Union's head coach for the first team. But now upcoming games, again, we have the Red Bulls on Saturday, 7:30 p.m. That's Saturday, August 29th. After that, we have 2 straight home matches. The 5th is with Montreal. Wednesday, September 9th is against Cincinnati, and then Sunday night game at 9:00 at night, all the way out there at San Diego. So that's what the next 1, 2, 3, 4 games, and the next game after that is Sporting Kansas City on the road. So again, looking at teams in terms of how they've been playing, Montreal, not a very strong team. Red Bulls, we played very well against. Sporting Kansas City, not too far ahead, and we have some really good opportunities to secure some wins. We'll see how the Union do in these next stretch of games, which really could determine whether decision day is important for us or not. But Ben, it's midnight now. It's 12:04 a.m. I wanted to hear your final thoughts, sir, on tonight's game and anything else you wanted to share before we wrap it up.
I'm satisfied with a point. I'm satisfied knowing that Lukic gives us a question in the center of midfield. Because now we have Lukic, Bueno, and Danley all competing for minutes is great. I thought Quinn played a bit better. He was definitely shaky coming on with the decision making, but started to find his footing a bit. And I think if he starts contributing, we'll be fine. The transfer window, I believe, ends on September 2nd. There's a chance that the Union could go out and get a striker. I definitely think they need a piece like that, just something different. I thought Anello was positive. I think he's someone who really could be pushing for more minutes. I think Indy's been starting because they've been winning games. I think he's been good in tight spaces, but if we can get Quinn kind of contributing like Cavan, just dangerous, always on the ball, then the Union could really be a threat. But one final thing is be a big play from Alado coming back. I just wish we saw a bit more of that work rate up top, where he should be running, making some runs like that. But it's a point on the road, hot heat. Now you just move on to the next game. It's not a loss, so It's not like they were completely outplayed. I think Przemysław Plaqueta and Javier or Joseph Rosales were great. I think Austin, if they utilize their wingbacks more with like switching the field quicker, they could have taken all 3 points, but that's in the past. Union survive, and looking ahead, I think it's possible to get 3 points against Red Bulls. Definitely against Montreal, and I have faith that if they stay unbeaten through those 2 games, that they can beat Cincinnati at home. Cincinnati aren't having the greatest of seasons. Kevin Denke might be on his way out as well. Who knows? And then, San Diego away. That's going to be a tough one. Playing our former guy David Vasquez there, and then Kansas City. That's an away game that the Union really have to get 3 points. Kansas City are on pace for one of the worst MLS seasons of all time, and news broke today that they're trading away their top goal scorer, Dejan Joveljic, to Seattle Sounders. So Union really have to get 3 points there.
Yeah, I don't think a loss or a draw is acceptable against Kansas City right now whatsoever. And John adds here, the team looked like it was about to melt at the end. Team needs a striker. Todd, the free kick pod. Anything upcoming for the show? Anything upcoming for you? Any final thoughts, sir?
No final thoughts. No, nothing final.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. Quick and to the point. Jillian, how are you and the one team we agree on doing? Any final thoughts? Anything to plug for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll take a point on the road there in that heat, absolutely. And again, makes me happy to see Neil just doing incredible things, honestly, from, covering him with Union 2. And speaking of Union 2, I will be at that match tomorrow. It's at the Wispas Bank Sportsplex. They moved the match. All the remaining Union 2 home matches are at the Sportsplex field. I'm not thrilled about that, honestly, but I think it's because the field in the stadium has been pretty torn up. I'm sure everyone saw how it looked against Miami. So I think that's the reason. But I encourage people to come out and support Union 2. It's at 3 p.m. and should be a good matchup against Connecticut United. So, so got that coming up.
Absolutely. All right. Well, tonight, again, the Philadelphia Union closed out today's match with a 1-1 draw against Austin FC. We have the Red Bulls next Saturday at 7:30 p.m. I will be at the Maryland State Fair during the day. So Todd just hopped out. He has to go finish his match report. But if you're in Maryland at the State Fair, I'm volunteering for work in the early afternoon. I'm driving back home. I'll be live for the post-game show and for the match as well. So I will be there after that night's match. I should expect us to go live around 9:45, give or take, next Saturday as well. And then otherwise, thank you everybody for hopping onto the comments. Actually, Jillian, real quick, how big is the Plex for seating? That's one comment that came up.
I mean, it's not huge, but there's plenty of bleacher seating. And you're right by the field. So it's, honestly, like if you're going there, sitting on bleachers, you get a great view of the action. You're like right there. So, I mean, yeah.
There you go. A little plug there. Appreciate that, Jillian. Anyway, again, Philadelphia Union, Austin FC 1-1. Thanks everybody for coming on and staying with us late. Go Union. See you later, everybody.